Again, we have an extravaganza panel. So I think you're going to hear from this group that the breadth of their experience and the lessons that they've learned, we could spend 3 days talking with them. We don't really have 3 days, but we'll try to get through as much as possible. Again, I'm going to introduce our moderator, and I'm going to then let her introduce the panelists. You have all their bios in your handout. But Angela is, again, another career changer. She was in the textbook industry for a long time and then decided to make a change, and she and her husband have opened Creative Co-working, which is a shared workspace here in Evanston. They have, she can probably tell you, over 100 participants, 100 worker bees. People who have their own businesses or can work remotely and join into a great co-working space. There's also a lot of art in the space. But Angela does a lot of things around town. She's on the president of a board of directors of one of the literacy organizations. She works with the Women's Club of Evanston, and I think her experience as an entrepreneur and working with entrepreneurs is going to be great to help guide the discussion in this panel. So Angela, if you and your panelists want to come on up, I'm going to find the other microphone. Okay. I'm going to give this to you.
Okay. All right. So let's see, we've got everybody. All right, now before you sit down, ladies, I think we are required to do a power pose. All right? All right. Put on your best Wonder Woman and raise your arms and just get ready for it because you are all powerful women. All right. Thank you everybody for being here. It's fun to I've been calling this a summit, because when you have so many amazing women in one room, you have to call it a summit, don't you? It's not just an event, it's a summit today. So thank you all for being here. And I'm excited to hear from all of these amazing ladies. Now, you've heard from the launch panel, so we will try to avoid talking too much about the launch process. We are the grow panel, so we want to focus on kind of that next step. And while we all have amazing launch stories as well, and maybe we can share those offline, we want to focus on grow. Another thing about this panel is that there are many of us, so I am going to try, just for the interest of the amount of time that we have, we won't necessarily all answer every question. So I'll try to get us started with 1 or 2 people, and then if you do feel compelled to share something about any particular question, I do want to hear from you, but don't be offended if you don't get called on for a particular question. So let's see. So again, and I've already been introduced, but so I am an entrepreneur myself. I always call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I just needed a product that wasn't there at the time. And so I thought, well, I can't be the only one who needs this. I needed a good place to work, and so I made one. And by nature of that, I see entrepreneurs every day at my job. So I'm always talking to people about their challenges and what they need in their business, what they need in order to grow to the next step. And so it's fun to talk about this. This is my favorite topic. We want to talk about establishing your brand, hitting your stride. Rather than spending too much time on my end, I want each of you to just, we all have the bios in the handouts, but if you can just say who you are and what your business is, and then we'll go from there.
Hello. My name is Sarah Jane Abbott. I am the designer and owner of C. Jane Sparkle. It's a jewelry and accessories boutique, and it's a lifelong dream that's come true for me. I've been open 2 years, but C. Jane Sparkle's been a company for 14 years, so very excited to be here, and thank you, Nell, for pulling this all together.
I'm Bernadette Burke, and I'm the president of Brella Productions. There's 2 partners, I'm one of them, and we've been around for 22 years now, and we're a corporate communication company, so we help a lot of our corporate clients basically communicate better either with their employees or with their customers.
I'm Elisa All. I'm the founder of 30 Second Mobile, which is a company that's devoted to creating content for mobile and social media that you can read or view on video in about 30 seconds or less. Prior to this business, I started a company called iParenting.com that was acquired by the Walt Disney Company in 2007, and I worked for Disney for a couple years before getting the spark for my next idea and then starting 30 Second Mobile.
I'm Patty Erd. My company is The Spice House. We're on Central Street in Evanston, but we also have 5 locations, and we have been in business for 57 years. We're second generation, so I got a little head start there for my parents.
Hi, I'm Susan Trieschman. I currently run Kurt's Cafe on Central Street in Evanston. We're a nonprofit cafe working with at-risk young adults, primarily guys. We're opening another cafe on Dempster Street, which will be working with teen moms and at-risk girls in the next couple months. But I think I'm going to speak today about my entrepreneurial journey with Food for Thought. We started as a very small company, $300 and 3 owners, and built it to $22 million. So the growth is really through that organization.
All right, so the first category I wanted to kind of focus on is how timing is everything. So when it comes to growth, it's very important, how do you know when to grow and how much? And so maybe Sarah Jane could get us started on that, talking about, when do you feel like you've hit your stride and you're poised for growth?
Well, it's interesting because I was designing in the corporate world 17 years and kind of growing C. Jane Sparkle for the 14. And that incremental growth is really what mattered. And nothing's changed with C. Jane Sparkle. And I finally just opened up the brick and mortar. So I think that slow growth for me was key. I feel like I've been open for 10 years, even though it's only been 2 years. So it's amazing. And the next step is to kind of dream big. I'm always dreaming big. I want to get back to designing apparel, so there'll be C. Jane Sparkle apparel, and vintage apparel is coming next. So it's just kind of constantly growing. It's very exciting for me.
Okay, and Bernadette, you want to pick up and just kind of say, how, again, like what makes you feel confident you've hit your stride and you're poised for growth?
Well, we actually have gone through several stages of growth. So I actually look at growth more like a stairs case. You get to one landing and then you hang out there for a little while and you go, okay, all right, I've got my breath again. I can make it up the next set of stairs, and then you do that. And we've, as I said, we've been through several stages. We're actually right now in, I would say, stair step 1 of our next staircase. And it's always really exciting when you're getting to a point of growth, because you have to sort of reset yourself again. And especially as an entrepreneur, it's kind of like you get back a little of that gel of when you first started your company and said, okay, what's driving me? Why do I want to grow? Because growth shouldn't always be assumed. And I know some people here can talk about why you should not grow in some cases, or you grow differently. But that's how I look at it. It's ever evolving, and you have to also give yourself permission to grow and then stop for a little while and recalculate, because you need to make sure that your growth is good.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, can I dovetail on that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's funny because I was going to say, and what are your reasons not to grow? Ways to grow. So we're rolling right in there.
Yeah, and I think I just went through that. And so I feel a lot of pressure as a new media entrepreneur to grow really, 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 really fast. Otherwise, the perception is maybe you're not successful. And in reality, that couldn't be further from the truth. So with iParenting, there was really no growth plan. But we were growing steadily, and then all of a sudden you realize, when big companies start calling you, you're like, oh, I guess I'm doing okay. So this time around, I was really cognizant about growth, and I'm based at the 1871 Tech Incubator in the Merchandise Mart, where a lot of, this culture there is grow big, grow fast, get out, raise money, it's so intense. And so I went down that path for a while, where I was traveling the country, and I was in Silicon Valley, I was in New York City, I was, giving my spiel to any investor who would listen, and driving myself crazy in the process. And realizing that my business was trying to grow on its own. Clients were calling and like, where's this project? I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even paying attention to my business because I'm trying to grow my business faster, and I'm gonna lose clients, and that's kind of dumb. So I did. I pulled back. I did raise some money, but then I pulled back and didn't continue down that path because I realized that my business is growing anyway. So I focusing in right now on revenue. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting concept. And so that's kind of my answer. It's a long answer. Sorry.
Long answers are fine. And Patty, do you want to talk about any of that, like
Yeah,
reasons
I
to
do a
grow,
little
ways
bit.
to grow?
We grew slowly, and I think it's kind of what you're comfortable with. So firstly, we have a product we really believe in, and that makes it very easy to get behind. But basically, we started in Milwaukee, and after about 5 years, we had saved enough money to open a store in Evanston. We saw that there was a market there, we saw that there was a need, and that there wasn't any competition. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but that was our personal money. And we just never wanted to, we have a credit line at the bank, we never really felt comfortable using that. But trust me, when it's your own money and your own skin in the game, it's just as nerve-wracking as having to worry about paying back that loan. 5 years later in Evanston, we saved enough money to open a store in Old Town. 5 years later, we saved up money to open a store in Geneva. So it's just really what you're comfortable with, and maybe from your point of view, it could be totally backwards, and maybe we should go and get loans and open dozens of stores. But also, we're very hands-on in our managing style, which might be good, might not be good. You're talking about being a partner with your husband is a different story, but so it's okay to grow slowly. You just won't end up with as many stores and maybe not as financially secure.
So it's one store every 5 years, is that the plan?
That's how it's been,
Is
basically.
it
Yeah.
do you think it'll continue that way?
Well, now it gets a little hard because we're older, and so now you start to see that you're pulling from your retirement money to start more stores, and it's a battle between those two things. So I think there's one or two more stores, though.
Same question?
Yeah.
We grew Food for Thought when we recognized that all of our money was coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we were a catering company. We were one of the largest in the city, but our cash flow wasn't happening on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we needed to really diversify a little bit. Also, when we were doing catering, there were about 4 people in the game. They're big people, but we easily rose up to their level quickly. But we didn't want to just rely on that, thinking that there were another 10 people behind us that were ready to launch as well. So we went into the food service industry, opened 22 cafes because no one was doing that. And that brought in Monday through Friday work, and it brought in day work, not night work. And now, about a month ago, I think, my sister acquired, she owns the company now, a banquet facility. So again, we were going out and hustling in all the different facilities, but now there's 30 caterers hustling for the same facilities. So now we're looking at having one place that we can cater full-time and really start to streamline our financials again. So we grew based on financials. Where did we need the money in Flex, and how could we get that?
Great. Okay, so now the second kind of category that I wanted to focus on is growing pains. We all know about that, that with growth comes change, and you have to plan for it. So there's a lot of things that come into play when you're growing your business, when you're thinking about growing your business, strategizing about it. So if we could kind of talk about that for a little bit, that importance of planning, and then we'll move on to some other aspects of that. So Patty, do you want to start us on that one?
Yeah, it's very difficult because the core of our business is what we love, but as you grow, you sort of move away from the core and the taking care of customers and the meeting with people. And now I'm in charge of human resources, which is not something I signed up for. It's very difficult. My husband hates marketing, but I like the marketing, so I do that. We both hate data analysis, but somehow in this world we have to understand it. We have a company that handles our website, but you have to understand that you sometimes do move away from what you really love doing in the business. I think the greatest thing, though, is right now we're actually looking for a GM that will take care of a lot of those headaches, and we hope to sort of go back in time a little bit to what we really enjoyed doing.
Growing pains. So I think I talked a little bit about my biggest growing pain was just that, trying to decide, about raising money versus growing it more slowly. And kind of came to a point where I decided to let the business grow on its own pace, at least for a little while, and it's growing. This year alone, I've seen sort of doubled our client base, and it's very exciting to see the kind of caliber of brands that we're working with. And the other point is for our business, I launched an app called 30 Second Mom. That's our first vertical, and the big scale-up plan for this business is to launch a series of other verticals in life cycle and lifestyle categories. So anything from 30-second pregnancy through 30-second baby boomers to health, food, various topics that our brand clients are interested in sponsoring. So, and we do content marketing. So we create not only, evergreen tips for moms who are interested in any of our categories, but also for brands. So we would develop recipes for Quaker or Johnsonville, whoever. That's how we make money. So in terms of growing pains, I'm kind of at that point now where, trying to decide when is the right time to launch that next vertical and what will that vertical be. So I'm not sure I'm answering the question, but that's kind of where I am in my business growth.
Well, as I said, we're on step 1 right now of our next plateau. And so we're, once again, going through growing pains. One of our big challenges right now is that we're at the point where we're putting in a management level across the company. And the amazing thing is when you have not had a manager level, you have to build it from scratch. And you have to understand, some of my staff are here, so they're probably going to laugh at me. But basically, one of our biggest challenges is basically taking people and giving them the opportunity to do amazing things within the company, giving them ownership of the teams, me feeling comfortable enough that they're going to take that ownership very seriously, and that they're not going to change the nature of the company from the core that I set it up. So there's a lot of trust going on there, and there's a lot of education going on there. And it's completely two-way, and there's a lot of respect that has to go through there. And so one of the big challenges that we have is giving everybody the opportunity to grow and bloom within the organization and fail, and being okay that they're not going to do everything 100% okay. So my growing pains are basically letting them fail, and also talking to my partner and saying, it's okay, you can let them fail. He's a little bit of a control freak, so, but at the end of the day, when they don't fail, when they succeed so spectacularly that it's a complete, you just get this great feeling, because it's like, wow, so now I can actually step away and do these other things that I've kind of fantasized about doing, but didn't have the opportunity to, because I know these teams have it, So that, for me, is really exciting.
Would anyone else like to talk about kind of that, the shifts in company culture, where just when you do get bigger, when you are growing and you're adding employees, maybe you suddenly need an HR person and you never needed an HR person before, things like that. If a couple more of you want to speak to that company culture shift that can happen in growth.
I think one of the things that we did very poorly at Food for Thought early on was we were skeptical about bringing in people that were smarter than us. So as an entrepreneur, you think you know everything, you think you should know everything, and employees should think you're God. And we kept bringing in people that were not as smart as us, which meant they were very incompetent, because I knew nothing about HR, and I was trying to run an HR department for 300 people. So we had to get over ourselves a little bit. And we started bringing in people that were brilliant and giving them the opportunity to run a division, make mistakes for sure, but they taught us, and we were open to that teaching because we did have the big vision, and we had to have confidence that our vision was enough. We had to know everything. We had to make sure that we had our hands on the pulse of everything and put stopgaps in so no one could take advantage of us. But being able to turn it over to a 25-year-old that was smarter than me as a 57-year-old was a little bit different. But in doing that, we were able to grow exponentially.
And Sarah Jane, if you take the mic, I was just thinking in terms of, for you, the shift to a brick and mortar is a major shift. And it also means that you're not a solo anymore. And so if you could talk about those kind of major shifts.
I'm not a solo, but I feel still like I wear 10 hats every single day. I have starlets that help me, which is fantastic, but I haven't found actually that boutique manager yet, and that's kind of my next growing that I need to move forward with, because I want to continue to design, I want to continue to add apparel and add handbags and bring in more, but I can't do it all. I want to do it all, but I think finding that right person is kind of what I'm looking for, and to your point, Susan, I really do need to find someone who's capable and who actually has some vision too. Your employees can be part of the plan. So that's what I'm going to next.
Yeah, and something that comes up, because for me with creative co-working, the first 3.5 years, I was one story in a skinny little 3-flat on Davis Street, and so I could only do so much with that space. And then when we started feeling like sardines and everyone's fighting over the one conference room, it was time to get bigger. And so now we are all 3 floors of this skinny little 3-flat on Davis. But it's funny, those things of, okay, how do we make this happen, and when is the right time to make this happen? I didn't want to grow too quickly and then have lots of empty seats and, and no renters upstairs, things like that. But then you also have to wait for that. What is the right time, and when I felt like I couldn't advertise my business because I didn't really want anyone else to come in. Like we were packed. I mean, it was starting to feel like, oh gosh, we don't have room for anyone else. So there's kind of that breaking point. So again, with the timing, if anyone else can kind of speak to that, like when do you really know that it's the right time to add a new product or to add a new service, and is it just in response to customers talking to you, or is it something where you had the checklist of items that you wanted to, be able to provide, and you're just moving on to the next item? If anyone wants to, well,
I could go on timing.
Sure.
For timing, customers really do, drive the business. You listen to them and you constantly adjust. And what's been amazing for me, when I first opened, I was designing and I was putting my jewelry out there and my vintage and merchandising and having a great time. And I started to add birthday parties. And it was just kind of girls' night out. It was for the adults. And it was great, bringing new networks. It was fantastic. Then I started doing children birthday parties. So yes, I'm a birthday clown. But it's fantastic. I mean, the 7-year-olds that come in that want to design, it's one of the best feelings I have, actually, teaching a little 7-year-old how to design jewelry. It's kind of incredible. But then I've done Sweet 16s, and then that completely opens up your networks. And I'm I didn't do that before, so it's very exciting timing.
That's great. Yeah, and I think it's so important to be flexible and to respond to those.
I think for us it helps because we feel that we're on the front line, so we're really connected with our customers. We try to be in the store, we hear what people say. It's very easy to know what people want for the next new product. There has to be enough market for it. You can't just make something that everybody wants and then not sell it. Plus, one of our goals is to have things going in and out of the store fresh. So we have to do that. But when I answer emails, I also answer at least 100 emails every day, and the requests are all over the place. So this morning, someone said, I have a barbecue restaurant on the south side. Could you help me custom do a blend that we'll use in the restaurant? And I answered, after Christmas, yes. I would be more than happy to. And that's kind of a side branch of our business that we never intended to happen, but then we did not solicit restaurant accounts, but we have hundreds and hundreds of restaurant accounts that have come to us. So again, that would have not been part of our business plan at all, and my husband really enjoys doing that, so again, that's another thing. And then the second email right after that was from a lady that said, I love this herb blend from this company that's gone out of business. I'd like to send it to you. You could make it. You can put it in your product line, and then I would be able to buy it again. And I'm like, well, I'm so sorry, but so you do have to be able to say, it's okay to say no to some things. But when we first started out that business, I would have absolutely had that lady send it to me, and I would have made something for her. So you do, it's a little give and take as you grow.
Sure. Okay. And maybe pass to Elisa for this one. I'm curious about, did you have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, actual business plan in writing when you started, and how have you shifted that?
So I'll answer that twice, because for the first business, I did not have a business plan when I first started the business. I did do research. I had this idea. I was pregnant. And new life stage. Had just finished my master's degree at Northwestern Journalism School and thought, there needs to be a pregnancy magazine. This was in 1996 when barely anyone knew that the internet existed. So did some market research, found out that other pregnant women did indeed think that was a good idea. So I wasn't kind of going into it blindly, so I knew that there was a market for it, at least in my limited sphere, and went ahead and put it out there, and then thought, okay, we put up a website to advertise this magazine, maybe that'll help sell the magazine. And of course, the website is what exploded, and it became one of the more highly regarded pregnancy sites, which led to this entire network of parenting websites, which led to lots more. So along the way, probably 3 years into it, 1999 was the dot-com boom. And at that time, we did put together a business plan, did raise money, and did have kind of a 5-year plan, and went through the dot-com boom, survived the dot-com crash, in part because we did have a plan, and we did have a real business, whereas a lot of dot-coms back then really did not. And so they all went bust. We survived, we thrived, and we exited the business. So this time around, I did have a plan, and again, in going down that path of raising money and wanting to get big fast, put together a massive deck with financials and projections, and I could talk to anybody anywhere in the country about my business and have this plan that I could show. So yeah, I did. And it's still there, I'm still following it, but I'm not, right now actively trying to, get too big too fast. So, but I like having it because it's like a roadmap. I don't think that you need one depending on the type of business that it is. I don't think that you need to have one if you're not going to raise money or, try to get a loan or something like that. But if you are going to talk in any way to any banks or institutions or investors or even certain clients, big brands want to know that you have a plan. They want to know what is your scale-up strategy. So I definitely recommend it, no matter kind of what business it is, so that at least you have clarity and you have a path.
And I want to just pop in for a moment and say that I personally did not have a business plan. I am the poster child of what not to do in many ways with that. I did have kind of the timing goals, and it speaks to your point about like, when do you know when to start? It's like, well, I just needed to start because I needed this thing, and there was an opportunity in the market, which many of us have to watch for that. But what I did have, I didn't have the exact 5-year plan or 10-year plan or even an official business plan, but I did have kind of natural steps in a natural timeline, and I think that's really important. Both for startup and then for growth. And for me, it was, okay, first I build the space, right? That's pretty easy. And then fill the space. And then start adding amenities and then adding other services. And so, I have my whole list of things that I want to add. And many of them have started to, lodge into place, which is nice. But there are still more things that I have in mind. But if I had waited to have everything in place, then it would have been, at least 5 years before I could open the space. So what other comments you, Susan, wanted to talk to that one?
Thank you. I'm a huge one for not following rules, but a business plan I think is really important. The reason being, we had 3 partners, so we could always pull out the business plan and say, is that on the plan? And if it's not, we would vary from the plan, but we'd have to know where our core direction was going, all 3 of us. At Kurt's Cafe, if I didn't have a business plan, I would be all over the map because people want us to do everything. And I can always draw back to that business plan and say, that's just really not the direction we're heading in. But even more importantly, when you get into the throes of running a business, so it could grow from our $300 to $22 million overnight, you will lose sight. I mean, you will get lost really, really fast because you're busy trying to pay the bills and discipline the employees and bring product in and things like that. If you can at least once in a while turn that page and say, I fell off on what I really thought I should be doing, it'll bring you back to the right place. And I wrote both business plans before I opened the businesses so that I could really think through a lot of stuff and took a lot of stuff out of the business plan because once you put it on paper, you're absolutely crazy. You can open a 500-seat restaurant or whatever. And it brought me to reality, which I don't live in reality. I really live outside the box. But it made me at least focus for a short amount of time on that reality, and then I could do what I wanted from there.
That's great. And I think that's a nice reminder that it can be a graceful way to say no, both to yourself or to a customer in terms of, well, does this fit within what the goal is, what the vision is? And there's also that, well, sometimes no is a not yet. For me, there were things I said no to in the first couple of years that I can now say yes to, but I couldn't when I didn't have enough space. And so if anyone else would like to speak to that, either the business plan idea or the, how it can help you to stay true to your vision.
Well, we actually did a business plan, I think it was about 2 or 3 years in, and actually we did it because we had an obligation. We were getting loan money and to buy some equipment. So we went through the process of it, and it was actually, it was a pain while we were doing it because it felt like, really? I'd have to, what? Well, okay, whatever, I'll do that. But having gone through it once, I've got the sort of the, why do you do these certain things? And so I don't actually write a business plan at this point, but I do some of the things that I did in order to write the business plan, and I think it's really important because I think you hit it on the head when you said you can lose, when you're getting in a very fast growth stage, you can completely lose all sense of like, where are we, what are we doing? You get caught up in the minutia, and then you say yes to things that are really not probably the smartest thing. And you also start to lose vision on opportunities. Because one of the things that I've talked to, I know a lot of growth businesses about, is you get these weird opportunities that just pop up in the oddest places. And if you are so busy sort of churning wheels and not thinking about what am I doing in a year or 2 years or 3 years, you miss the opportunity that can actually get you to where you want to be. So I try and periodically sort of and I don't always do this very successfully, but give myself a little pause time and go, okay, so wait, where am I right now? Is this where I want to be? If I've made a major readjustment, then I sort of reset and go, okay, so now we're doing this. Where's the new path going to be? And then when I'm looking at opportunities, I look at, okay, so where will this bring me forward, or am I going to step back, and is that a good step back, or is I'm going to go off the rails and then I'm going to be paying for it 2 years down the road?
Great. I wanted to move kind of from that being flexible and responding to market needs to sustainability, and thinking about, do you have sustainability in your industry? So if, well, Bernadette's got the mic right now, or if you want to speak to that, and then maybe hear from Sarah Jane.
Sustainability for me is, obviously we've been around for 22 years. We had the opportunity to be in a business that basically, when we started our business, the internet didn't exist. And part of our business is web-related, part of our business is event-related and app-related. So we have literally gone on the roller coaster of technology. And we love it. We're passionate about it. Our whole company, we are just, we all are very inspired by technology. And so for us, it's a great thing. It's also a very, we will go off in like these weird tangents all the time. So one of the things that we, again, go back in and we have to figure out about, okay, well, what are the base things that are going to remain consistent regardless of how technology changes? And for us, that basically means storytelling. Our business at its very heart is about storytelling. It's telling fabulous stories for our clients, and not in a negative way, but in a, why do you want to use this product? What's inspiring about this product? Why do you want to educate a particular staff member on how to do this? At the end of the day, is this going to help them do their job better? Is it going to help them get a promotion? All of those things. So that's at our heart. So then once we look at that, then we basically can think about what are all the things that help support that. And you also look at things like infrastructure and what are the things that help give you that baseline. Because again, for us, employees are our key thing. So we have to think about what will help their lives be better. Now, right now, all of them are living in a construction zone because we're adding a 3rd floor to our building. So thank goodness they're very patient people. But that sort of ties into it. So what you have to think about is, at the end of the day, what are the core things that keep your business together and running, and make sure you're reinforcing those, that you're bolstering them up, and that, again, you're moving things forward that just sort of build off of that and give you stability.
When it comes to sustainability, I really feel that C.Jane Sparkle, from the beginning, and it was just a brand, it was just an idea, it was probably more of a hobby, but it was always for the starlet in all of us. It was jewelry just to make you feel, just a little bit more Wonder Woman, a little bit more one of a kind. And so that's continued to happen, and now opening up my brick and mortar and being able to expand with design and teaching the design. Now I do bridal jewelry. I work with the brides. I mean, it's incredible how it just keeps going. But it's still, for the starlet and all of us, it still is that really kind of, and I know I probably touched on a little bit of the brand there, but starting with the brand, it's really sustainable. And technology for me, I love it. I'm so flexible with, it's Facebook now, it's Pinterest now. I get so excited about sharing my design experience, and so I can get a story on Facebook, and I can talk about a vintage piece or what's inspired me, and that gives a little bit more than just going into a shop and buying something. Even when you're coming to buy a gift, there's a little bit of a history behind something. So it's exciting, and so that's got a little bit more going on.
Yeah, and Susan wants to speak, so we can pass that back down.
Thank you. I think also with sustainability, you need to know your numbers. You need to know where your money is every single second. So we always knew that we were going to go through a 7-year cycle, no matter what the economy was going to do or what we read. Every 7 years, something was going to crash and burn in the economy, and we were going to take the hit. We're a luxury business. So we had to know where our money was, and we had to make sure that we had reserves on that 7-year. Even at Kurt's Cafe, we're running it as a for-profit business, although it's a nonprofit business, so that we are sustainable. But I watch the numbers every single day when they go into the bank, and I watch when they're going out of the bank. And most entrepreneurs will fail because they got all wound up in their vision, which I am a foodie, and I love my industry. But if I didn't watch my numbers, it really wouldn't make much of a difference. So you've got to be, if you're not good at it, find a partner who's really good at it, because it's important for you to be around next year.
I think I'm really lucky to be sustainable because I'm in the food business, and I'm specifically in the spice business, and it seems like people have always needed spices and they're always interested in cooking. When we hit a recession, some of my restaurant customers might go out of business, but the store is booming because people are going back to cooking at home again. So just the product I sell is extremely sustainable, but it would be foolish not to add modern technology on. So I'm always kind of surprised when I walk into a brick and mortar store that doesn't have a sign up for our email list. So we do simple thing like Constant Contact. One Constant Contact can bring me $60,000 in business, and it's just crazy. But then I also have to explain on the flip side, when my husband comes home and I'm pinning pictures, like, what are you doing? Are we paying you for this? It's like, well, Pinterest is our number 19 traffic referral that brings people to our website. So, and it's kind of fun.
That's right. Great. Now, Elisa, could I have you speak to how your competition has changed in the time that you've been in business?
Oh, gosh, yeah, because it's a
Particularly
long time that
Africa.
I've been in business. I date myself by the age of my son, so I know that I've been in business in this space for 18 years. He's going to college next year. Oh my gosh. Sorry. So it's changed a lot in that when we launched in 1996, we were one of the first pregnancy websites out there that was really in it for the content as opposed to the commerce, I suppose. So it was all about the quality of what we were putting out there, which is really what fueled our growth. It was, the most credible, numerous awards for best of the web, things like that really helped propel our brand. I think brand, I'm not sure how much we want to talk about that, but building your brand is crucial. What does your brand say about you, and what do you want it to say about you? So that's really what drove iParenting's success. We didn't have a lot of competition until about 1999, when everyone was raising money and trying to go after the space. I remember our nemesis, Baby Center, which I'm sure many of you are aware of that site. I just felt at the time that, they're taking all my ideas. We did this first, which is, goofy, because there's only so much you can say about pregnancy. I just remember that. And then, so this time around, obviously, lots of competition in this content space, but again, we were on the leading edge of mobile and social. I saw that kind of coming around the corner when I was at Disney in 2007. At that time, we were talking about mobile and trying to reach Disney's consumers and their brand clients wanted to we want to talk to them through mobile and social media. It's like, aha, there's the, opportunity for an entrepreneur if a big media company is kind of scratching their heads about it. So launching 30 Second Mom a lot sooner, the snackable content space, a lot sooner than a lot of companies. We're still kind of one of the only people that really specializes in snackable content, which is content you can read or view on video in 30 seconds or less. So, but it won't be for long. If this is a lucrative market, there's really very few barriers to entry. You have to be good at it, which is what I think I do best. Again, it's kind of the quality of what I do. Getting 30 Second Mom's name out there kind of putting our stamp that we are the leader, we are the best, we are, kind of owning this space. That's what I hope to be able to achieve. And so we'll see.
That's great. And Patty, could you talk about how your competition has changed in the time that Spice House has been
Well,
around?
my original competition was actually my brother's company, which is Penzies, and he has about 80 stores nationwide. And then the secondary competition is actually a man who worked for us and stole all the recipes in the middle of the night and started his own spice company using our recipes, which was very hard to let go at night when you went to bed. But other than that, people are now able to source spices, which 20 years ago without the internet you didn't. And we spent 50 years getting the top quality sources and farmer relationships, which we have ongoing. But now in my email every day, there's probably 20 people, all parts of the world, trying to sell me spices. So that part is there. And there are higher quality companies out there now, which there wasn't for a long time. McCormick in the grocery store is pretty good. So kind of we're relying on our mom and pop connection, our being in the store, our answering the emails personally, and really trying to stay connected with our customers.
That's great. And Sarah Jane, do you want to speak to the online competition question?
Online as in web online?
Yeah. Just like, how do you how do you keep your customers coming to you instead of just buying something online?
Yeah. Well, I mean, online, C.J. Sparkle does have a website, but the online versus coming into a boutique, it's more of an experience coming into a boutique. You get, again, the story behind the designs, where the beads are from, what country I maybe traveled, because in my career, I was able to travel all over the world, Asia and Europe, and every time I went on a trip for Claire's or Sears, whoever else was saying, like, well, I bought beads for C.J. and Sparkle. So, I mean, I'm the only one that's done that. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of things out there. But competition is actually good, I feel. And especially in the retail boutique industry, we all kind of feed off each other, and having fashion that's exciting, and having people come in and enjoy what we're merchandising together, it's great. So competition for me is pretty good.
All right. Does anyone else want to speak to that before I move on?
One thing about competition is I think it is good because it tells you that you're on the right track. So when I felt that pressure from the baby centers of the world, I was like, oh my gosh, that means I'm in a space that other people want to be in, meaning it's hopefully if I can keep doing what I'm doing well, I will succeed. And that is eventually what happened. So I think and people always want to know who your competitors are. So back to the business plan thing, that's part of your business plan. Who are your competitors and why will you be better? How will you beat them?
Mm-hmm, that's true. If we could pass to Susan, I wanted to talk about, how do you maintain quality as you grow? While you're increasing your profits, how do you, balance that of not losing everything that you've wanted for your standards? I think it's a challenge because there are things that a small business can do that a larger business can't do, while the reverse is also true, of course. But how do you balance that profit versus quality?
That's probably the hardest thing. So my industry is Feel and Touch. People like us and they'll buy our product. Everybody can make a ham sandwich. So we don't do anything new or exciting out there in the market. Even the catering company, everyone wanted tenderloin and they all wanted the same sauce, and any idiot could put it on a plate. So it was really our personalities. And when we started to grow and we had to clone our personalities, it became really, really difficult. It was just all in hiring. So again, it was hiring people that modeled our values, modeled our passion for food, and modeled our expertise. We called staging in the restaurant, having them stage with us, make sure that they were the right fit for us, and make sure that there was a synergy between us and them. And they might not have been the best chefs or the best cafe managers, but we knew that they were willing to grow and learn just because of our synergy. So we went through a whole lot of bad apples, and we made a lot of mistakes, but because we had our hands on the pulse as we grew, and then our next level, so our district managers, we had groomed them for 5 years, and then they were able to keep our touch in all the cafes. But it's a personal one-on-one touch. Like Patty's, you go in there, and everybody knows you. Everybody knows your name. But it is really important. They want to know the owner, and even if it's over a cup of coffee, they want to know the owner, and you have to be available to that, even if the paperwork is mounting on your desk, and just getting the quality people in.
That's great. Yeah, if we could all answer this one, I think, because if you want to just talk about that.
I kind of agree with just everything that you said. Right. It's very hard when your customers want to go out to dinner with you, and you only have so much time. It's like, how do I get out of this?
Quality, I mentioned that word before in my previous answer. I think that's everything, no matter what. I'm not in the food business, but the quality of what I do is equally important. There is a lot out there, and so I think cream rises to the top. I think people see it. I think they know when something isn't right. If it passes the smell test, that's huge. And so, quality for me is paramount in everything we do. And in terms of profit, it probably doesn't. We have a team that people who create our content are all experts. So these are doctors and nutritionists and fitness experts. And so that's how I ensure that we're getting quality content that we're sharing and getting it directly from the source, and the source that we screen. And one of the first things I had to ask myself when we were growing 30 Second Mom was, well, maybe this is more of a social network so anyone can post anything anytime. And that way we would grow faster, which is true. But then I thought, no, we're really more of a media company. And the quality of what we're putting out there is more important than the quantity of what we're putting out there. So the first layer, the screening layer is that person someone that I want to have on our panel and representing 30 Second Mom, and we believe in them. So that's number one. If the answer is yes, and they get to be on the team. And then the second screen is when they submit a tip, it goes into a queue. It doesn't just go live. We're reviewing every piece of content. Even though we already like the person and believe in what they do, we're still looking at what they've submitted. So it's being copy edited, fact checked, and then it's finally going live. So I think that two-stage approach works really well for me and my business, but I'm sure, it's very similar.
So I'm extremely fanatical about processes. And the main reason is when we went from somewhere in the mid-20s, staffing-wise, and we were starting to, on one of our big growth spurts, to around 50 people or so, we had, when we were smaller, a really hands-on approach. Everybody was very aware of what everybody else was doing. They knew the quality level. There was no hiding. No one, everybody was working at a really high level. When we started to get bigger, things started to slip a little bit. And so we went, you know what, this is not good. We don't like this. None of us want to be in a place where we are not getting at the highest quality level. That's a huge part of what our business is, because we can't fail our customers because we're handling their communications. So it really has to be just right. So I started being extremely rigorous about forcing my team to do documentation. And we document everything. We really, we have the phrase hit by a bus. Everybody in the company has to know that if you're hit by a bus, a team member knows exactly where to get and pick up from where you left off. They have to be able to cover you. They have to be able to support you, because at the end of the day, we're also a very human-centered organization. So, if somebody has a parent who's ill and they have to go take care of them, if somebody, has a cat that's in the hospital and has to go pick them up, all these things, we want our team to be able to do that and not have to split their focus. But that means that another team member has to be able to step in, be able to find everything, and be able to go forward and have all of the right information so that at the end of the day, our clients are getting what they expect. So we are extremely rigorous. Everybody in the company writes documentation, and we're very rigorous about making sure we keep things like, how do we correspond with people? We actually do a lot of writing training with our staff. Some of it's formal, some of it's informal, so that any of our staff that are client-facing have a lot of, when they first join up with us, their emails are audited to basically make sure that they're corresponding at a level that is very clear. We do a lot of training in that. We do a lot of training on sort of being analytical about your position. We break down a lot of things. We have checklists all over the place. There was this TED Talk that someone did a couple of years ago, and it was actually for the medical industry. And they basically talked about how in hospitals, the infection rate went down by some enormous percentage because they started using checklists. And for me, it was so good to hear that because I felt very affirmed about that. But we use that for a lot of different things. And again, what it does is it helps to make sure that we're all in a line, we're not making any mistakes. It also really helps us when we're bringing new team members on to get them up to speed very quickly. We just had our 100th employee start this week, and thank you. Thank you. And one of the things is they've gone through the best training yet because we are constantly evaluating how new employees start, how they're trained, and we just updated our new hire stuff. And it's really great to get the feedback then for our teams because they're like, yeah, this is so much better. In fact, one employee was really jealous. They wanted to go through the training again because they thought it was so much better this time. So
That's right. Sarah Jane?
I'll just speak real quick on profit and quality. Opening the brick and mortar was very exciting for me, quite a dream come true, but I had to keep the quality the same. And yes, I still sit there and make all the jewelry, and I'm starting to teach someone to help me with jewelry production, but then I have to go fix it all because I'm like, it's not, so the quality has to be the same. So my profit might be a little bit less, but I'm still in the growing pains of opening up a brick and mortar, so it's all good, it feels good. And it's just not, it's not something I'm ever going to go away from. It's got to be, I still try to buy from places where I can actually touch the stones, where I can go to the vintage and can actually handpick the things, because that's more important to me, that keeping the quality.
Yeah, and I just wanted to support some of the things that have already been said. For me, part of growing the business was that it can't just be, I can't be the only employee. I can't be the only person handling 100 members. And so I had to put down on paper some of the things that were just in my head before. And I would encourage everybody to do that, both at the startup phase and at the growth stage, where, I have, a handbook. I actually hire interns, mostly Northwestern students. I have a whole intern handbook where it's, okay, what is, if I am not there, if I'm at a networking event, for example, and someone walks and to Creative Coworking and knocks on the door, I need to make sure that my intern can respond to that person in exactly the same way that I would. Well, maybe not exactly the same, but to that quality level. What does my intern need to know? And so for everything that is a regular occurrence is all documented, and we keep polishing that document, and I think every document that you have should be something that you're willing to keep working on. So if an intern has a question, I say, oh, that question wasn't answered by the intern handbook, well, then we need to add that answer to the handbook. And so I think it's important to keep that up for the sake of quality for your clients, your customers, your members, whatever term it is for your industry. And to the profit piece too, I think you do need to keep balancing your vision for your business with that idea of profit, because we are definitely a profit-driven world. We are very focused on that, not just the bottom line, but how much money you're making and whether it's worth being in business. There's a lot of that kind of conversation that goes on, and so one of the things that for me, I have to, yes, I could raise my prices, but then I would alienate some people that I'm trying to serve. And so you have to always look at that too, is, does your pricing match the ideals that you had for your business? And how, is profit worth the expense of actually losing some of your potential customers? So one thing I want to do now is we can start with Sarah Jane, since she has the mic. So all of these women are amazing and could talk for hours about all of this. But I want to say first, just a general piece of advice in this area of growth, business growth. If someone is feeling ready to grow their business, what advice do you have?
The advice that I have is actually to bring in help. Get business, analytics done, get some sort of consultant company maybe to come in and give you recommendations on pricing if that's something that you do need to adjust, or growth when it comes to stop wearing all those hats and hire some people, but bringing in advice outside of what you do, because that's very key.
Boy, it's hard to think of just one. Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing that I could recommend is get a lot of people who start businesses have a fairly strong control freak living inside of them. I know mine has, I've had to keep her down a little bit because sometimes she gets out and she wrecks all sorts of havoc. Getting control of your inner control freak is really important because that control freak can stop you from getting advice. It can harm how you deal with potential employees. It can harm how you, by making you try and do too much and not getting outside collaboration in many different forms. So just have a little conversation with your inner control freak, you know, take them out to lunch every once in a while, make them comfortable, and that's the biggest thing that I can recommend.
I'm a huge believer in gut instinct, first of all. I think if you've got this gut instinct in you, you need to listen, you need to focus on that. And that is very closely related to passion, in my opinion. So if you're passionate about something and you feel it in your gut that this is, could be a business idea, that could be the time to grow, whatever you're feeling, go with that. With one caveat, which is always back up your gut instinct with data, because I think that will tell you if you're right. So my little litmus test back in 1996 was I had this gut instinct that this pregnancy magazine would be a good idea, but I did go ahead and try to get some data on my own, 100 surveys of pregnant women that really resoundingly supported my hypothesis or my instinct, which very quickly became my passion. And I poured all of my energy into that idea. That passion truly drove the business. But I always stopped and made sure that the data was backing me up. So I think that's really the biggest piece of advice I can give you.
For me, with a brick and mortar store, I think it's really important that you have staying power. So no matter how great your product is, do not assume that you're going to come out of the gates in first place. When we opened our Old Town store, we were in business 45 years. We're in this tremendous neighborhood with tons of foot traffic. We could not believe we did not get in the black for 2 years. So you want to have some money set aside, or you want to have a lot of credit cards with high limits, because there might be several months before you can actually take a paycheck, and just be aware of that.
Everything that everyone said is perfect. The only thing I would add is add your numbers twice. So if you're, be realistic. If you're going to lose 20 grand, just know you're going to lose 20 grand, and be okay with that. But then still launch. Just to go with your gut, but do it with intelligence, and know, if you only lost 18, then that was a huge bonus.
There you go. Yeah, and I would say too, just always keep thinking big picture, not just in the moment. You got to think about where do you want to be in 5 years, and how much of a setback is this, or how much, and in terms of the paycheck and such, yes, you have to accept that maybe that first year you don't make as much as you were making in your corporate job, but that's okay, and it's all in that balance of, that you're pursuing something you're passionate about is so important. So thank you very much. These ladies are around for other questions.